I never thought I'd be in this situation. Leo was supposed to be like family, my husband's son. But that night, everything changed. It all started with one confession, one look, and before I knew it, I was faced with a choice I could never have imagined. I've been thinking about you, Mara, Leo said, his voice barely above a whisper. I know it's wrong, but I can't stop. And in that moment I realized I was no longer the woman I thought I was. I wasn't just his stepmother anymore. I was something else, someone trapped between love and guilt, between what was right and what I wanted. But could I ignore the pull between us? Could I resist the temptation? Or would I lose everything to a forbidden desire I couldn't fight? Welcome to my channel. Press number 1 if you're ready to dive into the story and hit the like button if you're not ready to start. Sit back and join me on this emotional roller coaster. But before we get started, don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss the next chapter. Let's get started. Mara had always known that being a stepmother to Leo would be complicated. He wasn't exactly thrilled when his father married her, and Mara had never expected their relationship to be close, but they had found a routine. Mara worked long hours as a marketing executive, Leo was away at college, and Josh, her husband, was often traveling for business. Their family life was quiet, peaceful even. But when Josh was gone on yet another work trip, Mara and Leo found themselves alone in the house, a rare occurrence. It started with a quiet evening. Mara was on the couch reading through some files for work, while Leo was in the kitchen preparing dinner. It was supposed to be just another ordinary night. Then, Leo stepped into the living room. The moment their eyes met, something shifted. He looked different. The easygoing smile he usually had seemed absent. His expression was serious. Mara, he started, his voice unusually deep. I need to talk to you about something. Mara set down her papers, trying to read his tone. What's going on, Leo? She asked, unsure of what to expect. I've been thinking a lot lately, he said, taking a seat across from her. I don't know how to say this, but I can't stop thinking about you. I know it's wrong, but there's something between us that I can't ignore. Mara's breath caught in her throat. This wasn't supposed to happen. She was his stepmother. There were lines that couldn't be crossed. She had been so careful, so distant to avoid exactly this kind of situation. But now, faced with Leo's earnest eyes, she didn't know how to respond. Leo, she whispered, you're like family to me. This is wrong. You're my husband's son. But I'm not just a kid anymore, Leo said quietly. I know what I feel. And I think you feel it too. The room was silent except for the soft hum of the refrigerator in the background. Mara's heart pounded in her chest. She knew she should tell him to leave, to push him away, but part of her was frozen in place, caught in the magnetism of the moment. You're my family, Mara said again, trying to convince herself more than him. This can't happen. It just can't. Leo's face fell, but there was no anger, only an intense sadness. I understand, he whispered, standing up slowly. But I had to say it. I had to let you know how I feel. The days that followed were filled with an unbearable tension. Mara kept to herself, throwing herself into work, avoiding Leo as much as possible. But no matter how hard she tried, she couldn't forget the look in his eyes when he had confessed his feelings. She had never seen him like that before, vulnerable, lost. She couldn't stop thinking about it. The way his voice had broken when he told her. How his hands trembled ever so slightly when he stood up to leave. She had pushed him away, of course, but that didn't stop the guilt from eating at her. She didn't know what to do, how to fix things, how to keep the peace between them. Every time Leo entered the room, the air between them thickened. There was an unspoken acknowledgement of what had passed between them, and it weighed heavily on both their shoulders. It wasn't until a week later, when Josh was away again, that Leo approached her once more. Mara was sitting at the kitchen table, nursing a glass of wine and trying to bury her thoughts in her phone when she heard his voice behind her. Can we talk? Leo asked softly. Mara's heart stopped. She had been dreading this moment. I don't know what else to say, Leo, she replied, trying to steady her breath. We can't do this. We can't go down this path. I know, Leo said quickly, but I can't stop thinking about it. About you. Please, Mara. Just listen. Mara turned to face him, her heart racing. She knew she shouldn't give in. but the pull between them was undeniable. Leo stood before her, his body tense, his eyes full of an emotion Mara had never seen from him before. "I don't want this to be just a moment," Leo said. "I want something real. I want to be with you." Her breath caught in her throat. This was the second time he'd said it, and this time Mara couldn't push it away. She felt the warmth spread through her chest, the forbidden attraction drawing her closer to him. She stood up, needing space, needing distance, but she didn't move. She couldn't. "Leo, stop," she pleaded. "Please. We can't." But Leo reached for her, his fingers brushing against her arm, sending a jolt of electricity through her. "Just once, Mara. Just once, let's see what happens." The temptation was so strong, so overpowering. Mara's pulse quickened as she realized how close they were. She could feel his breath on her neck, his heartbeat against hers. The room seemed to shrink, leaving only the two of them. She closed her eyes, her voice barely a whisper. "Leo, we can't." But Leo stepped forward, his face so close to hers now, his breath warm against her skin. "I want you, Mara. And I know you want me too. Don't lie to yourself." This story is about to take a turn. If you're intrigued, make sure to subscribe to my channel and turn on notifications for more. Your support means the world. Don't forget to leave a like and a. Mara didn't know how long they stood there, close enough to feel each other's warmth, but it felt like an eternity. Leo's words echoed in her mind, his confession, the way he had looked at her with such intensity. She didn't know how to fight it anymore. Everything inside her screamed that this was wrong, that this would tear apart everything she had worked for. Her marriage, her family, her life. But there was another part of her, buried deep down, that didn't want to walk away. She swallowed, her voice barely a whisper. "Leo, we can't." But Leo reached for her, his hand brushing against her arm, sending a jolt of electricity through her. "Just once, Mara. Just once, let's see what happens." The temptation was so strong, so overpowering. Mara's pulse quickened as she realized how close they were. She could feel his breath on her neck, his heartbeat against hers. The room seemed to shrink, leaving only the two of them. She closed her eyes, her voice barely a whisper. "Leo, we can't." But Leo stepped forward, his face so close to hers now, his breath warm against her skin. "I want you, Mara. And I know you want me too. Don't lie to yourself." Mara woke the next morning to the soft light of dawn filtering through the curtains. Her head throbbed from the wine, but there was something else. Something she couldn't shake. She turned to her side, half expecting to find Leo still asleep beside her. But he wasn't there. Her heart sank, a wave of panic rising within her. The night felt like a dream, a beautiful, intoxicating dream. But now, in the harsh light of morning, reality hit her like a freight train. She threw the covers off and stumbled out of bed. Her mind raced, guilt and confusion clouding her thoughts. What had they done? What had she done? As she walked into the living room, she saw Leo sitting on the couch, staring out the window. His posture was tense, and when he saw her, he stood up quickly, avoiding her gaze. "Leo," she whispered, "we need to talk." He turned to face her, his eyes dark with regret. "I know," he said quietly. "I'm sorry, Mara. I don't know what came over me." Mara took a deep breath, trying to steady herself. "You don't need to apologize," she said softly, her voice trembling. "I should have stopped this from happening. I shouldn't have kissed you. I should have known better." But Leo shook his head, his voice breaking. "No, Mara. It wasn't just you. I wanted it too. I needed it. And I'm so sorry." Mara looked at him, her heart breaking. "I never meant for this to happen," she whispered. "But now, I don't know what to do. This can't go on, Leo. It's wrong." Josh came home that evening as if nothing had changed. He kissed Mara on the cheek and asked about her day, completely oblivious to the storm that had torn through the house in his absence. But Mara could barely look at him, let alone talk to him. How could she? The guilt was overwhelming, choking her. That night, after dinner, Josh went to bed early, exhausted from his long day at work. Mara stood at the window, staring out into the night. She couldn't breathe. She couldn't think straight. Leo had retreated to his room earlier, but Mara knew she couldn't keep running from this. They had crossed a line. She had crossed a line. Without thinking, she walked to his door, knocked softly and opened it. Leo was sitting on the edge of his bed, his face drawn with exhaustion. When he saw her, he immediately stood up, his hands shaking. "Mara," he began, but his voice cracked and he couldn't finish. "I can't do this anymore," Mara said, her voice barely a whisper. "I can't keep living in this chaos. I have to leave." It had been weeks since Mara left, and life had never felt more uncertain. She had moved into a small apartment across town, away from the memories of her family, away from Leo, away from the guilt. But no matter how far she ran, she couldn't escape the pain. She missed them both, the warmth of her home, the laughter she had once shared with Josh and Leo. But the guilt was too much to bear. Leo had tried to reach out a few times. She'd received a couple of texts, but she couldn't respond. She couldn't face him. Every time she thought of him, her heart ached. He had been her stepson, her family, and yet they had crossed a line they could never return from. Months later, Mara returned to her old life, slowly piecing herself back together. She hadn't spoken to Leo in months, but she had heard through mutual friends that he was doing well. At least, he was trying to move on. One evening, as she sat in her new apartment, Mara received an email. It was from Leo. "I hope you're doing okay," he wrote. "I know things will never be the same, but I just wanted to say thank you for everything. I'll never forget what we shared." The words hit her like a tidal wave, and for the first time in months Mara allowed herself to cry. Not out of regret, but out of a deep, aching sorrow for what could never be. As she closed the email, Mara realized something. The love she had for Leo wasn't the same as it once was. She had loved him in a different way. But now it was time for her to move forward. She couldn't stay stuck in the past. With a deep breath, she closed her eyes and whispered, "Goodbye, Leo." The road to healing was long, but Mara was finally ready to walk it. Thank you so much for watching. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this story. Do you think the choices made by the characters were justified? What would you have done in their place? Drop your comments below. I can't wait to read what you think. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel for more emotional stories and gripping drama. Make sure to hit the notification bell so you never miss out on the next video. Thanks again for being here, and I'll see you in the next one.